Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high. Get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, January 10th, Monday, January 11th for those of you across the pond and beyond. Welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm so glad you guys could join us this evening. I'm your host, Tessa TNT, and I hope you guys had an awesome, amazing, relaxing weekend. If you're listening right now to us live, you're listening to us on Spreaker. You can also find us on Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Tumblr, YouTube, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, as well as Podcast Addict. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we are going to be talking to you and getting to know Mr. Lynn Dorman. I have him on the line, but for some reason I cannot hear him. So I'm going to send him a little message really quick on what might be going on. I've had this issue before as far as trying to have a Skype call with somebody, and if I don't have my Spreaker on, then it won't work. So let me see if he has that going on. Are you there, Lynn? I can hear you now. I was like, what the heck's going on? Where's he at? Well, yeah, I don't have a bio for you or anything, but, could you introduce yourself to our listeners, tell them a little bit about you and how you got into the paranormal and other spectrums?
Okay. I'm assuming you're hearing me okay now, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. I'm just making sure we're good to go. Because I am not signed into Speaker as of yet, because remember we got to send a code.
Oh, yeah. And I actually got that. I was like, I wonder...
Okay, and they should have just...
Okay, so let me...
Okay, sent.
Okay, well, it seems to be working, but yeah, I just got it about 3 minutes ago. Let me copy this real quick and send it to you, so as not to say it over the air. But yeah, it seems to be working without it on, so that's good. So, Mr. Dorman's going to be doing our Wednesday shows, Wednesday nights on We Are Paradox Media. Super excited about it. He's got a whole new setup and everything going on. Dennis Dyke, hello. We got Dennis in the chat room. Yeah, Dennis says he can hear the audio good. Okay.
Okay, good. I'm in. So, we're good to go again.
Sounds like it's working.
And you want me to talk about me, right?
Yeah.
All right, we done this. And, all right, well, I, of course, was born into a poor family in Georgia in 1956. I was brought home on my third day of living, and on the fourth day, got my first diaper. Oh, you did want me to start from the beginning, right?
Sure. On the fourth day, got your first diaper. That's pretty good.
Yes. Well, let me go to the fifth day.
Day 5. Captain's log.
I'm 64 years old. We got a long ways to go. And it kind of gives you an idea how I want to do my show. I'm all serious about talking to the paranormal, speaking with the ghosts. I'm perfectly happy with being serious about investigations and how to do things, the technical end of it, the spiritual end of it, the mental end of it. But I, you can't talk for 3 hours and be serious the whole time or be instructed the whole time without a good laugh. I found this out in college that if you're on a subject, no matter how exciting the subject is, like say accounting, that real exciting subject, or orthodox business practices, that's real exciting. When you're talking about things, you need to throw a little joke and a little bit of humor. So that's how I am. Everything has a little bit of seriousness and a few laughs. Basically, my life is a Marvel movie. So, you can watch a Marvel movie and that's me.
Well, I think it is important. Like, I
But,
know a few groups that use humor.
I spent a lot of time in Georgia. I also lived in Alabama for a while, lived in Florida for a while. Pardon me?
Oh, I was just saying, I know a few groups that use humor, like, while they're doing investigations, and it's amazing how much more activity you get when you use humor instead of just being all serious and quiet and stern or whatnot. Having some humor, some laughter, I think humor is good for so many different things.
Humor is good for the soul. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about ghosts, what are you talking about? Souls. So, yeah. Going back to what I was saying, I spent most of 45 years in Georgia and then moved in 2001, July I moved to Chicago to marry a native Chicagoan. And then I moved after 14 years and in a few months, we moved to Arkansas. And how in the world did we do that? And why? Well, if you've ever lived in Chicago, taxes are ridiculous. And I got to looking at things, and I said, both getting Social Security and, this, that, and the other. We can't live in Chicago, not with almost $3,000 every 6 months in property taxes alone. And we are suffering a time delay. Okay, this got a deal, I guess. Yes, I've seen this happen before. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
I forgot to turn off my heater. But that's taken care of now. Anyway, lived up there for 14 years and a few months. Moved down here to Arkansas. Why did we move to Arkansas, you say? Well, my wife's family was from this area of Arkansas. So that's where we've been living now for 5 years. And yes, I have made 3 trips down to New Orleans and have investigated several places down in New Orleans and have learned quite a bit about the city. I was there 3 times in the early 80s and got to know the city fairly well. And then spending with 3 trips since we've been down here back in 2016, we stayed approximately over 3 visits. We stayed in New Orleans about 6 weeks total between the 3 trips, and saw a lot of New Orleans, getting to know the people and getting to know some of the ghosts. So that's me, real quick. Like, sorry about the diaper thing.
No worries, I loved it. Like you said, laughter is good medicine. But as far as New Orleans, like I got to go, not this year, but last year, and Caden and Alyssa Mask met us down there, and we were investigating the abduction case of Chad and Alta Dillon, and Chad had a place for us to stay and showed us around the French Quarter and such, and all the way up to Checkpoint Charlie's. just kind of retracing the steps that they had taken that day or that evening for Alta's birthday, and it was very interesting. Such a beautiful place, so diverse. Even the graffiti on certain places was pretty amazing. But we didn't get to do any paranormal investigating, which I think would have been so cool. Were you able to ever go down there before Hurricane Katrina to investigate?
When I was down there in the '80s, I was not did not go down there to investigate, mainly because I was down there for the Sugar Bowl, a fairly important football game that's played down there every year. Of course, I did, on the upside, I did spend 3 New Year's Eves on Bourbon Street.
Nice.
And let me tell you, standing there in the middle of Bourbon Street at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve with about 80,000 of your friends, everybody waving a half-drinking hurricane in the air is an experience. And I did that 3 times, 3 years in a row. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine if I had a choice between going to New York and watching the ball drop and going to New Orleans to do New Year's, I think I'd go to New Orleans for sure. There's
What's
so much
fun
energy
is when you take somebody with you who's not that heavy a drinker. And you get a couple of grenades down them and a couple of hurricanes. It's not the ball that's dropping; it's your friend.
Right? But there is so much energy, not just like paranormally,
both but
human.
Friends. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Fully agreed. There's paranormally, if you open your mind up, if you dare, there's a tremendous amount of energy. There's a couple of major spirits down there. Most of New Orleans is a crossroads. There's so many people have died there of so many different things. I mean, look at all the disasters and the disease they've had. People forget that New Orleans is much, much older than most of the cities here in the United States. And the number of people through the plagues that have swept that city before, fires that have swept through the city, floods, hurricanes, mosquito-borne diseases, because New Orleans is basically built on a drained swamp. And most of New Orleans is actually below sea level. It's kind of in a bowl. That's why it floods so easily. You get a hard rain, and it starts flooding. One, you're below sea level. You got several canals running through the area. You've got the Mississippi River on one side. You got Lake Pontchartrain on the other. You get 2 or 3 smaller lakes on different sides. New Orleans is just about a very low island, below sea level again, in the middle of water. And you got to understand the geography before you can understand paranormally down there. And that's one thing I found. When I went to Chicago, started paranormal investigating there, you got to know the history. You got to know what gang did what. Like, for example, the old rumor at Bachelor's Grove is that Al Capone had bodies dumped in the lake behind the cemetery. Now, but if you know about that lake, a pond, it's just that. It's a pond. It's a rock quarry where the people who built homes in the area cut rock out of there to build their foundation. Because back then you had no refrigeration. You had to have a root cellar to keep your food over the summer when it was hot and in the winter when it was cold. At least kind of keep it refrigerated. You can't do that with a wooden site. You've got to dig it in the ground, and you've got to have stone for the foundation. So they found a big rock sitting there that was in the ground and rock quarried it. Well, water filled it up, and of course you put water on top of a rock, it's not draining out. It's just a pond, a stagnant pond. But at its deepest, even after a rain, is only 6 to 7 feet deep. You don't hide bodies, even weighted down, when you work for Al Capone in 6 feet of water. You just don't do that. Where all you got to do is just walk out there in your clothes, kick around a little bit, and you find the body. You'll trip over it sooner or later walking around in that pond. They don't do that. They put them in another lake if they want to dispose of the body or did it some other way. But that's what I'm talking about. The point that I'm making is know your geography, know your history, and you can debunk a lot of stuff. Another popular myth down there is the farmer that was behind the plow with a horse. And the horse got stung by a bee or something, went crazy, and drug him into the pond where he drowned. Well, for one, if he was conscious, he could have just stood up and not drowned it. A horse could easily stand up. So they had to hit those rocks and both of them be knocked out and hit the water to drown, because it's supposedly the horse and the man who drowned. So this doesn't sound quite right, but you also got to look at your history, and there was no farming in that immediate area. You got a creek right there, and right around that rock quarry, now pond, it's just way too rocky to plant anything. There's just no way the horse could get out of hand and run, 4, 5, 10 yards and hit the water. They weren't farming that close to that rock quarry. So that's unlikely to have happened. And everybody describes a big 2-story mansion-looking thing. Nothing like that was built in the area. You'd have to go a couple of miles down the road anywhere near a house like that being built. So what do people see? Like I said, there was one a bit away, but why would it be appearing right outside of a cemetery? 3, 4 miles from where the home was built. Why would it do that? So you just got to wonder what people are seeing. Are they seeing something because they want to see it? You may have to help me with the pronunciation of this word. Pareidolia?
Yeah, pareidolia.
If you know what that is, it's when a guy looks at something and tries to make something out of chaos. Like you look at a pile of pine straw and you see faces in the pine straw, or maybe a building or a duck, or you look at clouds overhead, you see a horse or a unicorn or whatever you're seeing. That's pareidolia. What you're seeing doesn't exist. But the eye tries to make sense out of chaos. Something that has really no shape. The eye tries to make sense, and you see things. And I think a lot of people, they're having a little bit of pareidolia down there, looking through some leaves, looking through the tree, the foliage in the trees, or, whatever. They're seeing a house that doesn't exist. Supposedly, when you walk up to it, it disappears. Well, if you're suffering from pareidolia, the light's coming through at a different angle. The leaves are at a different angle. You're a little bit closer to them. So, of course, if your mind is registering there's a house there, you take about 3 or 4 steps, it disappears. Of course it is. Because the angle you saw the house, be it leaves or light hitting something in a way, like a little shadow trick, everything's changed. So, of course, you don't see the house anymore. So that a lot of stuff down there can be debunked, in a lot of places actually. And that's the kind of research I like to get into, because I work as hard debunking something as realizing something. And that's the way I kind of go about it. It's not so much a skeptic, but yeah, when you're kind of doing stuff by yourself or with 1 or 2 people that's not in a group, and you don't have a resident skeptic in your group, you just kind of got to do it yourself. You got to look at something, okay, is this real or not? And that's why a lot of my photos that I've got on my Facebook page is There's nothing. Look at this demon. Look at this ghost. If I look at it, is there something there or not? I don't know. So I'll throw it up. Let people make their own comments. If you see a ghost, fine. If you don't, fine too.
Yeah, and is that your
If I go
personal
up there and say
Facebook
there's a
page?
ghost in this photo, and everybody starts looking at it, yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, like
If you want to get to it, just look up
Lynn Dorman. Well, especially with pictures, like if it's really pixelated and grainy or whatnot, you could see so many different things that aren't really there because, you're always looking for that human face or whatnot, making sense out of I don't know, trying to make something
Right.
out of nothing.
Right. The eyes and the brain can play tricks on you because they're trying to make sense out of chaos. It's just a normal function of the human mind. And you just got to be careful of it and be sure to check out what you're looking at. If you take a photo of it, there might not be anything there. Of course, sometimes when I'm around a heat signature apparition, that's impossible to photograph because you're looking at shimmering air. So when you take a still picture, the camera can't pick up shimmering air. Plus, it's a still. Even if it picked up something in the air, it's stuck in one place. The video cameras can't pick up shimmering air because the air is invisible to the camera. So that's just something you have to experience yourself and look for and realize that you can't get any evidence, either with a still or video camera of it. The best thing to do is to open up some kind of communication ghost box, that's like I use, or ghost box like Bill Hauser uses. Fire that up and try to initiate some kind of communication. If you're seeing something, try to communicate with it, and then you can start videoing. If you don't have anything, if you still don't see anything to video, put the video on the ghost box. At least somebody knows what you're doing. Pull out your millimeter, pull out your K2 meter, and see if that flashes. If it does, put your camera on that, and then try to make contact. But that's the way I approach things. If you see something, try to verify it with a meter, try to verify it with a camera, try to verify it with some kind of communications device. You pick your own ghost box. There's a lot of very good ghost boxes out there that people have got very good results of. As long as it's a good quality one that doesn't give you many false positives, use it.
So with your ghost
I'm not going to
box,
sit here and
which
advertise it with a brand.
yeah, I have the SPB11, and then I also have the SPB7, which is much smaller. The 11 has 2 different channels. You can go forward, backwards, all kinds of different stuff. It also gives, like when the heat or the coolness changes and like the temperature changes, it'll have a little thing that goes off, and it also has like a little flashlight on it, which is red. But the smaller one, the 7, I like much better,
Yes.
and I think it's because it doesn't have so much going on. It's just a box, and it just seems to pick up so much more than the bigger one does.
With the S7 is what I use. I don't have 11. And I use other devices, like a millimeter, has the temperature gauge. And gives you, it's constantly flashing because it measures in tenths or hundredths. So it's constantly flashing because it's constantly some little tiny temperature change, immediate temperature change. So if you run into a cold spot, or if a cold spot runs in, it registers immediately. That's why I enjoy using that in combination with the ghost box. You just can't get them too close together because you can create your own false positives. And that's another thing with the millimeter and the K2 meter. They operate on slightly different frequencies, slightly different methods, the way they get their information. And if you put the two side by side, especially with their antennas kind of pointed at each other, you'll get false positives on both of them. They'll set each other off. So the best way to do it is have one person with a male one person with a K. Maybe keep them in different rooms. And I've also got several other meters that also register temperature change, along with a geobox that traces down footsteps, which is very helpful. Ow.
Sorry. Keep going. I have a visitor.
Yes. And we all heard the whole conversation.
Oops.
But I was trying to talk over it. I got a little bit too amused.
Yeah, the hubby
I was about to spend $20.
Right? He has World of Tanks going with my son, and he's trying to buy him something on there. Bought him a gift card to do it, which worked for his friend John, but isn't seeming to work for him. So I don't know. He's got to use my card or my PayPal or something, which I don't even know how that's going to work. But apologies.
I'm watching the chat room. I'm watching the chat room, by the way. I don't know if you are or not.
Yeah.
A Skywatcher, he said he didn't hear anything. He also said that the best part about going down there was the fast food. And my thinking is, you go to New Orleans, you do some investigating. My favorite thing is to check into a haunted hotel, and definitely hit the restaurants. There are some good restaurants. There's some bad restaurants. There's some overpriced restaurants. There's some overhyped restaurants. My wife and I have our favorites. Most, of course, it's got some of the best gumbo on the planet down there. Seafood gumbo is to die for. They've got fresh shrimp coming off the Gulf, crab, lobster. It's all good down there. If you like crawfish, they've got fresh crawfish coming in every day. Go down and get you some, as far as food goes. And the place is one of the most haunted cities in North America, if not the planet. Is it fabulous, not fast? Yeah, okay. Food is fabulous.
It is. It's very good. Even the burgers were good.
The fast places.
Chad took us to this one restaurant.
Yeah,
and
he's good down there.
It was pretty small in the front, but then there was also room in the back. So they moved us to the back, and we had everything. We had catfish, we had shrimp, we had, I think, alligator, all kinds of different stuff. It was so delicious.
Did you try the crawfish? Did you suck some heads?
I can't bring myself to do that. I'll eat the crawfish. Like, I used to catch crawfish when I was little, but I've never been able to suck on the head, which I heard is, like, amazing. But for me, I don't know. Maybe if I got messed up enough, I'd try it. But being in my right mind and just looking at these little bug eyes, staring at me, I don't know. I can't do it. I'd have to have a few hurricanes or slurricanes.
I'm kind of with... Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I cannot do that sober. If I'm going to suck heads of a crawfish, I've got to have a couple of drinks in me.
Yeah.
But the rest of it tastes good. I can eat the body of a crawfish, without alcohol.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to suck heads, give me a hurricane before I go insane.
Got to have some liquid courage going on.
Somebody should make a song like that. Yeah. I would quote the person who wrote that song, but he's not giving us any money.
Mr. Buffett.
Well, let's see, where yeah, Mr. Buffett.
I never ate any fast food. He says
crawfish in the gumbo.
Crawfish in the gumbo.
Crawfish. Yeah, if you go down to New Orleans, stay away from the fast food. There's a couple of restaurants down there that serve absolutely fantastic breakfast, and there's many more who you can get the poor boys, the poor boy sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
Say it like a little sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the poor boys. Name your restaurant down there is all good poor boys. You know, why should the Hardee's or Burger King just go straight to a local restaurant, get your poor boy sandwich, and you're a happy camper for lunch. Now supper, depending on how much money you want to spend, you can go down there. Some restaurants for two people, you're not going to eat for less than $60.
Holy shnikes!
But there are restaurants you can find down there that's a little bit cheaper. Yes. You can't do that very often. I would advise doing it at least once. If you're going to go down for 2 or 3 nights, go ahead and sport one night. Have you a good sit down, have you a good meal, enjoy the atmosphere. Most expensive places have a band playing, so you enjoy some good low jazz. And either stay sober if you're going on an investigation. I would never advise drinking a couple of hurricanes and try to investigate, because you'll see stuff climbing out of the ceilings after about 2 or 3 hurricanes. So I would advise drink Coke before you investigate, then go for the hurricane later. There's a lot of good bars down there. Believe it or not, most of the bars on Bourbon Street go with rock and roll cover bands.
Mm-hmm.
Which is strange, but a lot of it's classic rock. Not new stuff, it's classic rock. So if you like classic rock, just go to any bar in New Orleans, maybe go to 2 or 3, just stand outside and you can hear the band playing in the summer. And you find a group you like, and you've got your place for a couple of nights. So if you like classic rock, that's the place to go. Again, you can go to places and listen to your jazz. But you can hear jazz on the streets during the day, because you have all these bands. Some of them have albums out that have been recorded. Some of them tour, but they're on the streets. Where they make most money is on the streets of New Orleans with just tips. And that's what they're playing for. You can go out and buy one of their CDs, or just drop a 20 in their hat. They just stand there, and if you feel they start playing a good rag and you can dance a good rag, just start dancing in the streets. New Orleans is party central.
Yeah, I never got to go.
But let's go back to the investigation part.
Okay. I was just going to say really quick, I never got to go for the main New Orleans Mardi Gras, but I was down there near Halloween, so we got to see the Crew of Boo parade, and they weren't really throwing out too many beads, but tons of plastic cups and all kinds of other stuff going on with advertisement on it and stuff. But it was awesome, just the energy and colors and so many things. And even during the day in New Orleans, everybody's doing their own. You'll see little tiny parades going by of people just dancing and singing and waving around their boas or, flags or whatever they got going on. So much good energy. I love it. Okay, so back to investigations.
Yes. Like I said, one of the best things to do is to stay in an older haunted hotel. One I stayed in was next door to the haunted pharmaceutical museum. And if you're going to investigate a place, especially if you could contact the people in the pharmaceutical museum and they let you in there, and they have let a couple of TV shows in there, is to stay at the hotel next door, because the pool has let me go back. Most of your hotels and a lot of your houses are built with courtyards in the back. You don't have you just got an alleyway. And when I say alleyway, I mean just a walkway between the houses. And that's it. On either side. You have nothing in the front because their doors open up right to the sidewalk. So their yard, what there's of one, was a courtyard in the back. Of course, a lot of the bigger houses had slave quarters built in back there. There was the back border. and that's all the yard you have is a little courtyard in between. And a lot of the hotels have built pools in the courtyard. And this particular one, you could walk right out the door of the hotel. In fact, the room we stayed in had a door that actually opened up into the courtyard with a pool there, and walk up right to the wall that separated the hotel from the pharmaceutical museum. And you can pick up stuff there because, of course, the spirits are free to move around. They're not locked into the building they're in. They're doing all kinds of roaming around. You don't think they'll walk to the hotel next door or hang around the pool? There's your investigation, and you don't have to pay anything for it. All you got to do is just pay the nightly fee. And this particular hotel is not that expensive. It's a cheaper place to stay. You're in a classic hotel. You do have Wi-Fi. You don't have a whole lot of selection to watch TV, but you don't go down there to watch TV anyway. Especially if you're staying in room, 101, I believe. You got your side door to your room opens up into the courtyard. And if you can get that room, or at least have somebody of your team stay in that room, you're practically running the pool. And like I said, you're right there next door to the pharmaceutical museum. And one of the places that serve a darn good breakfast is right around the corner. And the Napoleon House, itself a haunted building, is next door on the other side from the pharmaceutical museum.
Jeez.
And they serve one of the best poor boy sandwiches in New Orleans. So yeah, you're around the corner and half a block once you get to the corner from one of the best breakfast places in town, and he's right next door to the Napoleon House, and a very good poor boy sandwich. Now they don't have the big deluxe dinners, and it's a very cheap place to eat actually. If you like the sandwiches and light fare, it's a better lunch place than a supper place. I'd go to other places for a nice meal, but for lunch, that's just a fabulous place to eat. And like I said, the place is haunted. The reason they call it the Napoleon House is because a supporter of Napoleon built the house there and was going to give it to Napoleon for his exile. But Napoleon decided not to take him up on it. France, I guess, made him go to that island in the Mediterranean, kept him there. They didn't want him coming to New Orleans to start trouble. Don't know where Napoleon's brain is there, or the French government, for that matter. But that's why that house is called the Napoleon House. Napoleon never walked into the door, but the house was offered to him free if he wanted to come to New Orleans to live when he was exiled. So that's a little story about New Orleans. Of course, we went down there and were staying in the hotel. The first morning we got up, we were going to see what we could do in New Orleans, and they were stopping people from going outside. The traffic was stopped. They said, you can't go anywhere outside right now. They're filming. And, okay, what are they filming? So I pulled the camera out. And we got to see them shoot several scenes of NCIS New Orleans right out the front door of the hotel.
That's super cool.
And there was Scott Bakula holding a gun on somebody he was trying to arrest at the hotel across the street. So we got this scene reenacted again and again. It kind of an action thing. Scott Bakula was making an arrest with a little help from some of his buddies. A car would come screaming down and slam on brakes and skid to a stop right there in front of the hotel. And we got to watch this play out for about an hour, over and over again, which was a very nice bonus staying in this hotel in New Orleans. You should watch NCIS New Orleans being filmed right there. There was quite a surprise that morning, especially after I had a couple of hurricanes the night before.
Got to follow that up with a Bloody Mary.
Is that really Scott Bakula, or is that the hurricane talking? So we enjoyed that, and then we hit New Orleans, and my wife had never been there before, so we hit a lot of the touristy places,
So Skywatcher was
The
wondering...
Voodoo Museum on the Main Street.
Domain.
I'm reading it.
In the Quada.
Yes. I did not get to investigate the Voodoo Museum on the Main Street.
You have to do it by appointment or something, like they're so busy.
I did investigate. Yes. They charge you to go in there, I believe, and you got to set an appointment. Now, right now, you wouldn't, but you really want to go to New Orleans with COVID like it is.
No.
That place got kind of hard hit.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, too.
Exactly. In time this COVID gets over, it's going to be summertime down in New Orleans. So that's their slow time. It's summertime, but who wants to go to New Orleans in July?
So hot and humid.
That's not a good time to go to New Orleans.
We were there in October, and it was still very humid.
It's worse
and
going
hot.
I was down there the first time with the wife, and we were in t-shirts a lot walking around in December. It was open to the public in the 90s. And we're talking about investigations and actually going in there and investigating. You can go in there on a tour and probably take some pictures. But what I'd like to do is go in there at night with several cameras on tripods and 4 or 5 people with lights and meters and, get our thing going. 5 or 6 people and, $6,000 or $7,000 worth of paranormal equipment.
Yeah, and you were talking about earlier with the
speaking of
kind of like
equipment,
heat waves or whatnot in the air, and I just kept thinking like a FLIR camera would be really cool when something like that pops up.
A FLIR camera would be cool. I have never tried with a FLIR camera to catch a heat apparition. I've never tried it. I would like to see if the camera could pick up something in the air. If the difference is that great, it would, because you can see a little shimmer with only a couple of degrees. Now, whether the FLIR could pick up showing you different colors with only a 2 to 3, 4 different temperature degree change, I don't know. That's something I'd love to experiment with. I never have. And I know a full spectrum camera won't pick it up because a full spectrum is not. It does not pick up infrared. It just picks up UV through IR. Which, by the way, is what I like to use is full spectrum cameras. And if you watch any of my videos instead of being green, which is just strictly night vision with strictly IR, they're pink. Because what happens when you have UV, which is ultraviolet, and you mix it with infrared, which is extremely high end on the red spectrum, what do you get when you match violet with red? What do you get? Very purpley pink. And that's what the videos end up looking like. But they do pick up things that reflect IR light, and they do pick up things that reflect UV light. So you get it all covered, rather than the technology that was available, say, 10, 12 years ago. You have the IR camera, and you also had to have the UV camera and have the separate lights. And speaking of lights, let me speak something here. I like to use something. The guy who came up with it called it cross-spectrum lighting. And it was developed for a 3D camera. But now there's no place to put 3D photos anymore. That YouTube, quit using that technology quite a while back because it took so much space and nobody was putting anything on it. But cross spectrum is a light where you've got a small bank, maybe 6, 9, whatever bulbs of deep infrared light. On the other side of the light is a bank of very deep UV bulbs. In the center, you have a bright red light that's barely in the human spectrum of vision. It's a red light, but it's a deep red light. Like I said, it's something that you can see. It's not quite infrared, but it's that ceiling of human vision. Then on the other side, an inch or two away from it, is a very bright violet light that's just inside human vision from ultraviolet. Basically a black light. This is an LED, basically a black light. What's a black light? It's close to that border where you can see some of the violet and you don't see some of it. You said unless it's reflected on a black light poster or whatever. So basically it's a black light. In the very center, you have a green center of the human vision green, just your average green, not a light green, not a dark green, a center of the green spectrum, which gives you a little bit of light. And then you shine all that on at once, and that's cross-spectrum lighting. And it's interesting what you pick up with a full-spectrum camera, because it's picking up the UV, it's picking up the IR, and the human eye can see with the green, the red, and the violet light. Which means almost anything, you can see it, reflect that kind of light. And with the infrared and the ultraviolet, the full spectrum camera can pick up things you can't see. And that's the way I like to do my photography and the videos. And you've got to get Christopher, I did not. Anyway, you've got to get used to that kind of lighting. I've investigated with people who said, I cannot see with this kind of lighting because their eyes aren't used to seeing with a red or green light. They're used to investigating with white light, which just makes me madder than hell at investigation because you need your night vision. Which is another thing I can get into. Red is a long wave light form. Light's one of the very few things that is particle and beam. And the ray is long. That's why we have red lights, because it dilates your pupils. You have to have pupils dilated to see red light. Green light does not affect your pupils. Won't shrink them, won't dilate them. So you can use green light without affecting your night vision. Where red light will make your pupils open and create your night vision. So if you're shining with the red and green, you can actually, your pupils will dilate after a time with no medication, and you can actually kind of see in the dark. With that kind of lighting, everything to you is kind of bright. So this way you can see things in the dark that you wouldn't normally see, because with a white light, it's hard to see a shadow figure in a white light. And I call them light anomalies. Some people call them orbs, but orb is something when you take a picture, you've got these orbs going in the air that's mostly dust or water vapor or whatever appearing in the still camera. I call something that's not quite round, especially if it's got a tail, shooting across your video. That's not an orb. That's a light anomaly. An orb doesn't move because it's usually in a still shot. That's a light anomaly if it's moving. It's a bug or something. That's why a light anomalies catch all bugs, something, maybe a small bird or whatever. Mm-hmm. You've got to look at it closely to see what it is. But if you've got white light, and if it's a bird, of course you can see it. A bug, it reflects light. But if you've got just a full white light out there, if it's given off its own light, you've just completely overshrouded it. You need kind of a darker room to see something that's giving off its own light. A true light anomaly. How do you explain something flying across the room that's giving off its own light. And if you're in there with a white light flashlight, how do you even see it? 9 times out of 10, you won't with a white light flashlight. But if you've got the red or green in there, and it's kind of what I call a twilight kind of lighting, something flashes through, giving off its own light. You can see it. You can film it. And there's your evidence right there. Especially if it gets close enough. If it's a bug, you can see wings, you can see legs. If you get close to it and you can't see legs or wings in your video, and it's giving off its own light, what have you got? I don't know. Explain it to me. What have we got? And that's the way I'm about evidence. I'm not going to sit there and brag, I got this picture of this ghost, and it's just a light anomaly going by. Because people will say, well, that's just a bug, and, it's not shaped like a bug. There's no wings, there's no legs. And giving off its own light. Bugs don't give off their own light. So, it's any evidence you come up with the ghost is not going to be proof to a skeptic. Because they're going to say, well, it could be this, or you could have doctored the video. This whole thing could be staged, and they've got a point. It can.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you with ghost evidence? Evidence in the eyes of the beholder. Even I had, when somebody shows me a picture, shows me a video, I said, I can't vouch for this because I wasn't there. One of the greatest guys in the paranormal that I know of, Dale Casimiri, he has people in groups send him pictures and send him videos. We got a ghost. And there's very few in years, I mean decades, of him doing this where he's found something he couldn't explain and figure out.
So Skywatcher's asking, is there a website or YouTube channel or CDs?
The best place to do is Ghost Hunters answering Skywatcher's question. Look up Chicago Ghost Hunters on YouTube. You see some of my videos there. And you see some of my photos on my Facebook page. I also got a few short videos there. Now, a lot of these other videos I was talking about sending to Dale Casimiri have been for groups all over the world that he's looked at. And so many of them have just been debunked because they got something, a bug or whatever. Do what? You were really garbled when you said that.
Me? I didn't say anything.
No problem at all, Skywatchers. That's what I got the chat room on for. Oh, your video started moving at high speed, and you started talking at real high speed there for a second.
That's weird, because I was just sitting here listening, and I did not say anything.
200 miles an hour.
That is so weird, because I was just sitting here looking at the chat and not saying anything, so that's odd. There's been a lot of weird things going on here recently.
Yeah.
You like what?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, on that note, we are going to go to our first musical break. On this break, we have Griff with Let Freedom Ring.
You're frozen.
So weird. We also have Chico with They Beyond Me. Roy Washington, who is our musical host. Subliminal is the name of his song. And Chico again with Juice. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
Okay, yo, here's the scoop. You can still be a slave, you're whipped and loop. That's the truth. Got big houses, nice cars. That's real cute, but it doesn't mean nothing. You ain't free to choose. When I say free to choose, no alarm clock, don't gotta hit the snooze. The world is backwards, I'm so confused. They say freedom of speech, but when you speak your mind, they blow a fuse. excuse, just being honest. Common sense and common, it's kind of ironic. My freedom, recently bought it. Now I'm a target if I do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing. Come on, man, let freedom ring. Yeah. United States become divided states. The world is filled with all kinds of shades, and still resegregate. Parents separate from the children, that's not okay. We should be free to laugh and play. Do it now, before you pass away. Fight for what's right, enough for everybody to get a piece of the pie. Brainwash, social media, full of lies. Go to work, pay bills, then you die. Need a breakaway, guns, get rid of the AKs. Our ancestors paved way since the slave days, but we still hurting. Carry that burden. Stop playing victim, beat the system. Love is love, it should be shown. Can't grow unless you leave your comfort zone. This I know, I learned all this from the mentorship. Kids don't know what independent is. Take advantage what your parents did. Go against the grid, you have to. Like going to the bathroom, learn the right songs. Cause of Matthew, liberty like statue. They call now the present, cause it's a gift. It should be cherished, last name fearless, not Harris. All thanks to my parents' parents. Now, love the last name every time that I hear it, cause I know what it represents. Climb the fence, so now I got freedom. Such a beautiful thing. Freedom. Such a wonderful thing. Freedom. Such a beautiful thing. Freedom. Such a wonderful thing.
This good thing. And fire your employees, you dealing with a boss. And kick it with a player, I got juice and I got sauce. You messing with them losers, I feel sorry for your loss. I'm a heartthrob, baby, I can feel your beating pulse. GQ, so you know this player's done. Hit the club, got chose like it's none. Mathematician when it come and getting numbers. I'm screaming, one, I feel like money, why? Cause they be on me, they be about them bucks. Fear the deer, fear the deer. I'm feeling like a player, must be pure, must be clear. So let me drop this knowledge in your ear, in your ear. I'm driving your chick crazy, let me steal, let me steal. She crying like a baby, I see tears, I see tears. She thick from the front, I see rear, I see rear. I see me in them panties, I see mirror, I see mirror. Fly guy, baby, you messing with a pilot. King of the ship, you messing with a pirate. Ding dong ditch, make her open, then I'm out it. I'm getting all in that belly, turned her any to a Audi. GQ, so you know this player's done. Hit the club, got chose like it's none. Mathematician when it come to getting numbers. I'm screaming, one, I feel like money, why? Cause they be on me, 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 why? They be on me, 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 why? See you, Roy Washington, man. What's happening, man?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. They never say it in words, but in deeds wars declare. Justice is gone and the sight's none is spare. Especially the kingdom encased in melanin. But these suckers are weak, kings and queens will ride again. Come on. Slackers with badges, the white sheets and the maggots. Watch them fall as I tag them because I'm better than average. A sharpshooter with words with my eye to the scope. And they escape when I've donned the black cape? Is hell no. I'm a ninja for right, who can vanish from sight. Pick you off in the night, but still the Lord is my light. Perceiving all you see, the truth behind the scenes. Instead of jumping bandwagons, the light says believe in me. Cause you're a puppet, no doubt. 45th turned you out. Though I saw your lips moving, no sound came out. So I was sent from the heavenlies, born so you could find me. Swam the scene and stream, took flight during the 90s. Landed in grace, wrote a verse of hip-hop. Got with Jay and found the taste was smooth as butterscotch. We had hood love and money. Problems, they be on me, but we stayed in the flow. It had juice like Manolo.
They can try to oppress, you can try to impress. Cause after success, none less. You can look in my eyes, you can feel in my vibes. Clean down inside and it's so cinnamon. No, God on my side, I ain't worried about none. If it ain't about money, then it ain't about none. Laughing at my enemies, I know they see me coming. If it ain't so enough, they can't even see me. Politics and violent shit, I'm here to raise the consciousness. For every face and race up in this nation trapped in poverty. Diamond in the rough, need to cut, shape it and polish it. Bad thoughts cripple life, we can be an optimist. We can be an optimist, reconstruct apocalypse. Broke people always hating, mix me with that gossiping. Rose up in the concrete, rain and sun, I'm blossoming. My people need to be like kind of Velcro, then we conquer it. They can try to oppress, you can try to impress. I'm just after success, none less. You can look in my eyes, you can feel in my vibes. Clean down inside and it's so cinnamon. No, God on my side, I ain't worried about none. If it ain't about money, then it ain't about none. Laughing at my enemies, I know they see me coming. If it ain't so enough, they can't even see me coming.
The 45th is a joke, and he's weak in disgust. He plans to divide, but there's no stopping us. If we have to fight, go toe to toe for our lives, we prevail and got sight, cause only light I recite. I blow my lyrics like a shotgun, camouflaged inside the tracks. Now watch the suckers run. I'm moving fast enough, heads up, now here I come. I designed 50 ways to make this murder fun. I spit the lyrical rain that coat the concrete, that give life and take form. Arise and walk the street. Am I the greatest to spit? Feel the spray and we'll see. Let it dry, all the lies and the truth will point to me. Even when surrounded by a million MCs, I'm the one under the sun who's the greatest of these. I got the Holy Ghost juking and tapping while I'm rapping. Sticking and moving like Roy Jones, I'll make it happen. Even animals move when the novelist is rocking. My doggy started barking, his ears just a-flopping. Subliminally, I penetrate camps like an enemy. Flicking the lights, cancel sight, cause you're not seeing me.
They can try to oppress, you can try to impress. I'm just after success, none less. You can look in my eyes, you can feel in my vibes. Live a king down inside. And it's so cinnamon. No, God on my side, I ain't worried about none. If it ain't about about money, then it ain't about none. Laughing at my enemies, I know they see me coming. If it ain't subliminal, they can't even see me coming. Juice. Get a vibe. Big dreams, big money, back. Ate up. I think I got juice. I think I'm the hitter. They say I'm the man. I say, how do you feel, girl? I think I'm the I think I'm the hitter. They say I'm the man. I say, how do you feel, girl?
Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip. Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip. Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip.
Juice. Handmade, get bucks for me. Drop the soda can, she got a crush on me. Little mama so in love with me. Even Todd look up to me.
Look, but it never mattered. Got these haters pissed. I control their bladder, come across it. It's a chance to scatter Henny on the house like a fucking ladder. See your main. Yes, I had to back her. She was being extra up and coming active. Beat it out the frame and let the glass shatter. Beat it out the frame and leave a flabbergasted.
I think I got juice. I think I'm the hitter. They say I'm the man. I say, how do you feel, girl? I think I'm the I think I'm the hitter. They say I'm the man. I say, how do you feel, girl?
Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip. Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip. Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip.
Fly guy, catch flight. Well connected, high five. Johnny Gill, my. Bad chicks, my type. Pull up like Huggies, they mug. Pull up like Huggies, they love me. Pull up like Huggies, cause I'm the MC Hammer can't touch.
Off that fifth hand like I slice a chicken, I was practicing. I'm a mathematician, call me Michael Bibbins. I'm a new addition, not a Buddhist. Don't wear true religion, yeah, I spit a lot. Like my tooth is missing and she gave me. Now her roof is missing, I'm the bomb, baby. Now the proof is ticking, be calm, baby. We in a new dimension.
I think I got juice. I think I'm the hitter. They say I'm the man. I say, how do you feel, girl? I think I'm the I think I'm the hitter. They say I'm the man. I say, how do you feel, girl?
Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip. Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip. Don't let drip, don't let drip, don't let drip.
Juice.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we have Mr. Lynn Dorman on, and he is our new Hump Day host. Lynn Dorman on Wednesdays. You guys make sure you tune in, and that's going to be 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Central, and 10 p.m. Eastern. Welcome back, Lynn, and thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, it's not a problem at all. I'm enjoying Sunday night. I'm sitting there. I've got the volume down on my TV, but I'm still watching Pittsburgh playing Cleveland. So I'm watching the game. Of course, it's 35-10, so it's kind of lopsided to Cleveland right now. I can't describe the plays because I'm not licensed by the NFL to do a play-by-play on their football games. But back to the paranormal. I've never investigated in Cleveland or Pittsburgh, so we can talk about New Orleans. We can talk about Chicago. Let me open up with a place that I have investigated that very few other people have. This is new stuff. Would you like me to talk about it now or save it for Wednesday?
That's totally up to you.
I could just call that a teaser and say that Wednesday night I'll be talking about a place that only a handful of investigators have ever investigated. And I ended up with a very personal contact with the spirit.
So
And
make
I'll
sure you
just
guys
call that a
tune in.
teaser.
Your tease, Lynn.
So, yes, I've actually had strippers tell me that before. Oh yeah, I had one in New Orleans throwing beads at me from the roof of the building.
Nice.
I had ran into her the night before. Here I am, married. The wife's in the hotel room asleep, and I go into a bar, and this girl, I don't know what it was about me, but she just literally fell into my arms and lap. And we went out to the courtyard behind the bar, and two other girls who were fond of each other, just put it that way. I don't know how do you describe their sexual preferences without sounding like I'm prejudiced against that, but I'm not. You know, the people sleep with who they want to sleep with. But they were wanting to do something with the dancer. The dancer wanted to do something with me. So the dancer tells me to go out to the courtyard with her so we can talk without the loud music. And next thing I know, I've got three women, and I'm wearing three women at once like a jacket. I couldn't even move. I mean, I had a drink in my hand and could not drink the drink. I couldn't raise my arm high enough to get the drink to my mouth. That, you know, some people say that girl was all over me like a cheap suit. I had three of them on me like a cheap suit. And I did not know what was going on. I was about 3 hurricanes into a good night, and I just said, okay, I'm married. I cannot let this happen. I said, look, ladies, I am married. Can I do this? But it kind of broke up a party. But anyway, the next day she sees me walking by, and she's on the top floor, supposedly chunking a few sets of beads out, and she starts to chunk of beads at me from about 3 stories in the air. And I'll tell you something, somebody throws something at you, and they're already 3 stories up, and they're lobbing it straight down at your head.
That's pretty good velocity
It
and
doesn't
gravity
feel
going
very
on there.
good, even though I was wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got free beads out of the deal, and I just waved at her. So that New Orleans can get very interesting. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on down there, but right where I was investigating, I'm trying to find out if something is going on with my computer, and it won't raise.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't do
Maybe
any titty
this will solve
flashing
the
in
problem.
New Orleans.
Okay.
These guys offered to throw some beads at me, but they were just a little bitty beads. And I wanted those big beads, like the big beads. I got big boobs. Give me some big beads. So I was like, no, you got to have some better beads than that to see my boobies.
You like your beads like you do your men, huh?
Yeah.
Big beads. Anyhow, where was I? I was in this behind one of the voodoo shops in New Orleans on a tour. There's one of the bigger paranormal groups down. They do a lot of paranormal tours. They're the ones that go on show you the vampire tours, and you know the tour, the ghost walking tours, or just a drinking walking tour.
Yeah, the ones I saw, they were all on Segways.
it's kind
I'm
of a
like, what
tourist-
kind of shit is this? You guys got to be going around on Segways on a freaking haunted tour? Can't you just walk like everybody else?
Yeah, you do have that group. This is not that group. All theirs was walking. It's kind of fun to go on, like I said, it's a tourist trap. and you can only believe maybe a tenth of what they tell you. Most of what they tell you is just about everything's either extremely exaggerated, and some of it's out and out lies. You got to do your own research to know what really happened there. But they got this one place behind a voodoo shop. It's an old slave quarters, and I didn't know it was really haunted. And I had done a little research. You know, most of these slave quarters are haunted, especially in a city like New Orleans.
Yeah, that was the main
So I
port
figured
for
I'd
slavery.
try it. So I went there. Yes. I went there, went upstairs, just me and a guy. He has his own YouTube channel, by the way. He does a lot of history stuff. He got out of the talking. He's one that says, you know, most of what they tell you are lies down there. That's why he stopped doing those tours. But he's got a super personality. If you look him up on YouTube, I cannot pronounce his name. I guess I could look it up on YouTube. To give you his channel. But anyway, I'll see if I can find it in a second.
Yeah, and while you're looking at that,
We went up there, immediately heard.
Go ahead.
Yes. I was going to say, immediately, we were sitting in the dark, and I heard footsteps that sounded like a woman in heels walking away from us. It was just me and him. We already looked around, so he'd show me there was nobody in that building but us. So I knew nobody was hiding behind a door or over in the dark in the corner or whatever. But to hear distinctly women's footsteps in heels going across the room. So the place was haunted. I got that little bit of evidence. So when I had the opportunity to go a few months later, when I was back down in New Orleans on our second trip, a couple months later, February, I had a chance to, pardon me. I said a couple of months. In July, several months, 6 months later, I had a chance to go back into the same place while I was investigating the Andrew Jackson Hotel, which is the most haunted hotel in New Orleans, the Andrew Jackson. If you like soft beds, I would stay there. It's one of the more expensive older hotels in New Orleans, but practically every room has some kind of haunt in it. I was staying in room, I believe, 110. And there was a resident ghost in there, sat down in the chair. And while I was investigating the rest of the hotel, actually, him and my wife, Gail, started talking with each other. She was catching up on Game of Thrones. So she was watching that on a notepad, a laptop, whatever. The ghost was watching with her and getting into the Game of Thrones. He would get to where we'd say, hi. And he'd say, and if we had my Echo Box on, he would say hello when we walked into the room. And he liked sitting in one chair, and no matter what meter stuck there, it went off. And the chair was not near a plug or anything like that. We tried to downplay it. Somebody else came in there and started, okay, this has got to be something here. Trying to debunk it and could not debunk it. So if you get a chance to stay at the Andrew Jackson, take equipment, take cameras, take meters, spend the night there. The beds are extremely soft. You lay down on one of the beds, and you will literally, if you're laying on your back, sink up to the edge of your eyes into the mattress. Extremely soft beds. If you like a hard
Are these
bed,
like
stay somewhere
down
else.
or down mattresses or what?
I have no idea. They feel like down mattresses. If you like a soft bed, stay there. If
That'd
you
be
don't
good
like a
for
soft
winter.
bed, stay somewhere else or sleep on the floor.
Yeah, that'd be good for winter, not
Yeah.
summer.
Right. And then we were down there in February, so, it was... Oh, excuse me. that Andrew Jackson was there in the middle of summer, so it was kind of a pain. But I wasn't sleeping much during the night. I was all over the hotel. And one of the other rooms in the Andrew Jackson, I was in there with a guy who actually worked on a paranormal show. And he always wanted to do it himself, so he came down there to look at Andrew Jackson, because very few people can go in there. And this group had the whole thing reserved. And now this was not a cheap combination. To get a room, they only allow 2 people in the room. You're talking for investigating the place for 2 nights. You were talking $400, close to $500.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
For that. But the thing of it is, I could investigate all day if I wanted to, and had ghosts in the room. And definitely in the evening time, we'd all get together, and I could go in any room in the hotel till daylight. But this one guy that actually worked on a paranormal show walked in a room, and he got this recorded. We heard him scream because he walked in the room with just a voice recorder, and something growled at him. Now, the way to debunk this, I was not in the room with him. He could have easily walked in the room, growled in the voice recorder himself, screamed, and ran out of the room.
Yeah.
He could have done that, and I'd never know.
But is that his character? Like, I'm sure you're good at reading people. Do you think that's in his character to do that?
It was not his character to fake evidence.
Okay.
And we're having what I just heard, I didn't understand a word you just said. But anyway, that's not his character. I don't think he was there to fake evidence. And he played the voice recorder, and it was a distinct growl in the room. And the room he went into is known for being kind of unfriendly. And I got several responses in a couple other rooms with the mail meter, some questionable photos, things, where there's shadows where there should not be shadows, a couple of light anomalies. The Andrew is one of the more haunted places in New Orleans. If you get a chance to go down there, this tour group, once they crank back up in New Orleans, will probably go in there. They've been doing it every year since. Well, one time, rent out the entire, during the week. You can't go on the weekend, so you better have the week off when you go. And you better be ready to write a check, too, for about $500 for 2 people. If you go, you're going to have to get 2 to 3 rooms and looking at $400 to $500 per room. And remember, you're only allowed 2 people in a room. So it's expensive, but you will get results. So I'd recommend it to her. And by the way, here I've got the guy. Let me spell his name to it. Alton Shea, ATUN dash of the hyphen SHEI Films. Alton Shea Films. ATUN dash SHEI Films. He's got a lot of history of the New Orleans area. He is not a strong believer in ghosts. He leaves that up to people like me. He's a very funny guy. He does a lot of acting, a little bit of comedy in his historic videos. He discusses, were there really black Confederates? That was his last video 2 weeks ago. He talks about Dracula, some of the history of World War II, some of the history of New Orleans. Takes you down a couple battlefields there.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of his thumbnails for his YouTube, and I just know already by looking at his face and just feeding off his character, I'm going to love that. Thanks for sharing.
He's a nice guy. He's funny. And you can imagine me and him spending about 4 or 5 hours in the same room together. It was just complete some serious investigating, or he let me do some serious investigating, and the rest of it was just nutcase going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit down and have a drink or eat lunch with him anytime he wants to, because it's always a trip. If he and I if you ever see he and I standing beside each other, bring a camera out, get your recorders out, because it's going to be a very funny video.
Yeah, this is going to go viral.
It gets a bit silly, but it is interesting. Yes. But he's a pretty cool guy. Anyway, he and I went in that place, and I kind of got familiarized with the spirits that were there. So I went there again, and he and I investigated that when I was down there in December of 15, December 15, 2015. So I was down again in July of 2016 and went down there again. And being familiar with the ghost, I knew the ghost by name, and they were halfway familiar to me and knew that I wouldn't hurt them or make them mad or anything. So the young lady who I'd worked with before at the Wax Museum investigation, we'll talk about that later. She went upstairs with 7 or 8 people from the group, and I sat down on a couch on the ground floor in the slave quarters, surrounded by about 15, 16, 17 people. So I break out the Echo Vox cameras and got equipment sitting around. And I'm sitting there talking with the resident male ghost, who is rumored to have died there in the slave quarters in a closet. And I'm sitting there maybe 3-4 yards from the closet door, and had people leaning against the door, standing in front of the closet. And I said, "Did you die in this closet here?" "Yes." "Can you make a noise by this closet?" The person standing in front of the closet almost jumped in my lap because he made a noise over by the closet. And then the girl that was upstairs with the rest of the tour come down. They didn't get anything upstairs. So she was hoping I was stirring up something downstairs. She was kind of letting me kind of co-lead the group. And I said, "Oh, you're back." She said, "Yeah." And I said, as a spirit, called him by name again. I said, "What do you think about this tour guide?" And the ghost said, "I don't like her." And she just looks flabbergasted. Here she is in front of a bunch of paying customers, and the ghost says he doesn't like her. She says, "Why don't you like me?" And he said, "You talk too much."
Oh, man.
This is my quote. There's no way. I know for a fact that this is not recorded. This came over my Echo Vox. And if there's a way to pre-record something like that, I don't know how to do it on that device. I knew it was not faked. And he just flat said, "I don't like you." "Why?" "Because you talk too much." And of course, she lost the whole tour at that point. Everybody was just rolling on the floor. Because I'd come up, we were going back and forth, just talking about this, that, and the other. He startled a couple of the people, moving stuff, making a noise. Flashed a couple of lights on command. I said, "Can you do this?" "Thank you." "Can you answer this question?" Boom. And everything was just coming up. And he went, just like we're talking here. She said, "Why don't you like me? You talk too much." And he said it just like that. There was no way I could pre-plan that. That's nothing but paranormal evidence when you're going one-on-one in a conversation like that. It's just unstageable. I don't know how I could have pulled that off in staging it. Everybody was this is great stuff. And although the tour guide's feet were a little bit hurt, she knew that she was not going to have any complaints from the people on the tour because they got their money's worth. They got a ghost talking to them, because it was, of course, all on me. And then the next day, we're going in. I bring her to the hotel and I was telling her about the ghost in the hotel room. But when I walked in, the wife was in there. And I said, okay, this is the young lady I spent last night with.
Oh, my. And you didn't die?
And, of course, Gail said,
You're still alive? Oh, my gosh.
Gail just looked at her and said, oh, you're the one that spent the night with my husband, huh? You had to put up with it. Wife's got a sense of humor, fortunately.
Well, that's good.
The poor girl was mortified for about 5 seconds till she realized this was kind of a rolling joke between me and Gail. But we had quite a few laughs down there in Andrew Jackson. Then I got to one of the more haunted rooms. I spent some time by myself there. And I was rarely alone in that hotel, even when I was by myself. So the Andrew Jackson is very haunted. If you get a chance, go.
It should say,
Now,
Andrew
first time I
Jackson,
met this girl,
you're
by
never
the way-
alone.
Yes, right. The first time I met this girl was her first night at work. That's why she remembered me. The first night. And we go into the now closed, now it's condos. This was the last night, we were down there in February, for the Wax Museum. We had, again, a public tour. So I went in there with my whole great big bag of equipment. And we're talking about a bag that's about 3.5 feet long and about 14 inches square inside of it, plus another bag, plus a backpack. So I had equipment with me. And I decided to go. The Wax Museum was also used. I got to say was, that is, because that's all. This is gone now. As a place for weddings or receptions or parties or whatever upstairs. There was no museum upstairs. They rented it out for banquets or whatever. So I went up into the banquet room, and nobody was up there. Everybody was going through the main Wax Museum. And I wanted to stand on the elevator because it was originally a brewery. Back in the 20s, it was a very active brewery. And they made the beer upstairs. You know, they got to pump the water up, and the beer was actually made and bottled upstairs. So rather than have guys walk down the stairs with cases of beer, that's a disaster waiting to happen, they built an elevator where they could back their T trucks. You know, instead of the Model T, so they were trucks. Back them into the elevator, bring them up one floor, load them up with beer, lower it back down to street level, drive right out the drive, and they're on their delivery. So I was on this elevator, and several other people said, well, okay, where's Lynn? Where's Lynn? We got to find him. He's going to find something. I don't know why I'm like that. I guess people struggle. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm as popular with ghosts and people can pick up on it. But there was a couple of, one of them had her psychic guide with her. So these were people who were minimum feelers, maybe you could call them psychics, I don't know. But at the minimum, they were spirit feelers. They came on the elevator with me. And this one guy came up there. His name was Jason. And he had an issue, not his, it was issued to him, a K2 meter. He got on the elevator. Nothing had flashed on the K2 meter the whole time. He gets on the elevator, and that K2 meter is flashing away with him holding it close to him. He'd move a few steps, and it would go off. He'd hold it out at arm's length. The lights would go off. But if he was just standing there, because remember, we're in even if it was a car elevator, we're still in limited space because it was used for storage too. He couldn't stop flashing. And he finally said, why is this light flashing? He came over to me, pointed to my to my Echovox, and it quit flashing. He pointed at me. He says, "Is this your phone?" Pointed to the phone, not flashing. So I started off. It's probably not going to register. Running up and down me like he was scanning for metal, and the lights wouldn't flash. We went back over to where he was standing. The lights were flashing. He said, "What is it? What's going on here?" I said, "Okay, who is standing next to Jason?" And I had this guy, Frank, following me around all evening and speaking into the Echovox. Woman's voice comes on. She said, "Frank is." I said, "Frank, are you standing next to Jason?" "Yes." Jason grabbed the doorknob to leave because we were closed up. And, of course, it used to have a bay door. It was frozen in position by this time, of course. But it also had the human-sized door to get out of the elevator. He grabbed the knob, fixed to run, but looked out the window and remembered that the whole banquet area had no lights. He had no flashlight. He was going to have to run about 30 yards. Well, remember, this is a big place. Across a dark room where you can't see your hand in front of your face, round a corner, into a darkened stairway where the lights were also turned off except for the exit sign, walk down that completely dark staircase, walk into a dark room, try to find somebody who was down there with a flashlight. And I think he realized he didn't want to do that. Plus, he was about to leave his fiancée there. This guy was terrified. Because in front of all these people standing there, I got direct responses. A little bit later, the girl with the spirit guide, that she was told, "You got to leave. You got to leave." They kept to say that over and over. "You have to leave. You have to leave." So she said, "Okay, my spirit guide's telling me, and we got to go." So she walks out off the elevator into the conference room, let's call it the event room, and walked out there for about 10 or 15 minutes. And our friend finally said, "Can she come back in?" And the voice came back, "She can, but he can't." She had a male spirit guide. So we took that as the young lady could come back in, but her spirit guide was going to stay out. So her friend went out there and said, "Look, the ghost says you can come back in, but spirit guide has to stay outside." So she agreed to that and came in. And everything was fine.
That's weird.
But once again,
Why?
how do you fake something like that?
Yeah.
And I did that. I did that in front of a lot of people. Then all of them went downstairs and told the tour that what I had done on that elevator. And after they walked out, I packed up my equipment and went to the main museum area, where I actually had a camera running. But and I started investigating there, and realized that I was by myself. The whole crowd, after that, after having direct responses from a spirit, decided it's time to go hit New Orleans and party. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. They all left. I got locked inside the museum, alone, with the spirit still talking to me over the Echovox. All the lights are off, except for my UV and the IR lighting and a red flashlight, for 2.5 hours in a wax museum. Try it sometime.
Heck
That
no.
is
Just kidding.
the creep
I'd do
factor.
it. It'd be cool.
The creep factor will go into your body. I talked to a guy here in Arkansas. And he's out of the investigation business. He's in the movie business now. He's been in a lot of crazy situations, including one time in about a decade and a half of investigating, he ran into a demon one time. So he has actually had the experience of running into a demon. And been in a lot of crazy situations, both spirit and humans with evil intent. He's got a tremendous amount of experience. He flat said, I could not do that. He said, there's no way am I going to sit there and be locked in a wax museum for 2.5 hours by myself. Not with the lights off. And I've had other people tell me that, so I did something, and it was a while before I realized I was totally alone. But they said I could stay there till 5 o'clock. We had to get out at 5 o'clock. So I did not know I was in that building from basically 2 till 5. And they gave me 30 minutes to tear down my stuff. So I was, even with the lights on for the last 30 minutes, I was just tearing down stuff, listening to the Echo Vox. I was still just alone. The other guys walked away. And just left me by myself, just doing my thing. And that was an interesting experience. And the young lady I was talking about that the ghost said she talked too much at the Andrew Jackson, that was her first night.
Oh, man.
Of working for that company. And she had all these people walk up to her and her boss, who was there, say what I had done on that car elevator. They wanted to know if they were figured that I worked for the tour company and was doing something with this. And no, I don't work for these people. But they were just, and then they were shocked again when the boss said, he doesn't work for me. He paid just like you did. I know he's a paranormal investigator, but he doesn't work here. Doesn't work for me at all. And of course, they were amazed again that they got evidence. They got their money's worth. They went out and partied. They got their scare, which is what they were there for. They were there to be scared. And I put a ghost in front of them and scared the hell out of them.
Good job.
And because I've done that. I've done that before. I've done that in Chicago. Come up on a Halloween party. And it's not that I conjure them. I just know how to contact them, and I don't try to intimidate them or, talk bad about them or that, you're just chicken if you don't come out and talk to me, or if you don't hit me or throw something at me, I'm leaving, or I'm going to say you don't
antagonize, be respectful.
I don't do that. Go on there. Exactly. Yeah, I just go in there and it's nice and say, hey, if you want to talk, I'm here. And even a hostile spirit will talk under a lot of situations like that. And people just get amazed when they're, off the street. And they said, okay, let's go in here. Let's see if I get a little scared. And I put a ghost in front of them. One girl came in there with the group I was with. We went down to the basement, and she had a young girl come up and was talking to us and was holding her hand. And she said the girl was right there beside her. I could look, I could see the air shimmering beside her leg. But not only that, her dress that she was wearing was dented in the shape of a little girl, where the little girl was standing right beside her leg and holding her hand. The dress was dented in. And when the little girl left, the dress popped right back out all by itself.
Yeah, I have a picture kind of like that where a little girl ghost was holding my daughter Nova's dress, and you could see her dress is going down, and then it's pinched out to the side.
Right against her leg, holding her.
Super cool. I love when stuff like that happens. Like, you can't see them, but you can see
their energy
and see where they're at.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, right. Uh, that's where Bachelor's Grove. I showed the video, and people looked at the video and said, "I don't see anything." I said, There was a heat signature apparition walking through the weeds, and if you look closely, there was a tall 6-foot weed there. It bends against the wind, where it was kind of pushed to the side. It was just a 2-3 mile an hour wind blowing through, and the heat signature didn't have to be that warm, mainly because it was about 22 degrees. There was about 6-7 inches of snow on the ground. There was no heat anywhere. Not even the plants had any heat in them because it was a cloudy day. But you do see that weed move against the wind. And that was during the day at Bachelor's Grove. So people say you can't go to something during the day. Yes, you can. It's just harder to see them. You're relying on seeing some kind of heat signature, some kind of movement, like a weed moving against the wind, or a noise, or something like that. I was down there once, had a guy with me, and we heard a whistle. And we started immediately looking around, because I figured there was somebody standing behind a tree that we didn't know was there, or come up behind us. There was 2 or 3 trails leading to the immediate area. They come up from the back side where we didn't see them, and they come up on us and decided to mess with us. So we started looking around behind the trees, and we just looked at each other and realized we are the only people here. And we were sitting there without 4, maybe 5 feet apart, so we could see that neither one of us whistled. And me personally, I looked at him and said, "Look, I can't even whistle like that. I never learned how to whistle as a kid." He said, "Well, I can whistle, but it wasn't me." I said, "Yeah, no, I was looking right at you. It wasn't you." "Yeah, no, it wasn't me." Maybe a ghost whistled at us. And what else can you say to that? And we were in the same corner where I'd seen a portal open up. And some people don't understand about portals. This particular spirit would visit the cemetery almost every day, right at dusk. Sometimes a little bit earlier, but at least by dusk. And the cemetery has got a chain link fence around it. And back several years ago, now it's all cleaned up. But several years ago, of course, you had little trees and vines all growing up in the fence. As what happens when you don't cut the stuff down on a chain link fence. You have every vine there is growing up the fence. Well, all of a sudden, I see a whirlwind. We're whipping in a circle. That these leaves of small trees and vines look like they were in a 20, 25, 30 mile an hour wind, but only in one spot. There was no wind. Looked around, there was nothing moving in the area. The whole cemetery was just quiet. I almost said dead quiet, but that's kind of obvious for a cemetery. But everything was quiet. There was no wind. But I could see this wind, little windstorm, maybe 6-7 feet across, going down the fence, disturbing all the plants on the fence, then stopped, and I saw a figure that was kind of flashing in and out, again during the daytime, walking out of the portal. And I was all the way across the cemetery looking at this. I said, "Wow, look at that." And camera didn't pick up anything. But I'm sitting there watching this. This would be cool. If this happens every day about sunset, I can just come down here quite a bit and see if it happens again. Well, a little bit later, a couple of weeks, I was sitting there with a guy I knew that comes down, lives in the area, with his dog. And we're standing there close to the front gate where the portal opened and the wind stopped. And we start seeing the dog looking down, right down the line of the fence. There was nobody in the area. As far as I know, there was outside of the road, 70, 80 yards away, there was nobody within a quarter of a mile of us. The dog's just sitting there looking straight down the line of the fence. And he said, she sees something. I said, yeah, she's pointing at something. So we kept watching, and all of a sudden the whirlwind started in the leaves again and coming to the fence. Except this time we're standing where it ended the last time. So we're watching this and coming right at us. I have crazy friends. Did I ever mention that maybe I'm not all quite mentally there?
Right?
Most people I know, realizing that a portal is coming right at them, will run. And we just stood there like idiots. And this thing came out, and here the lady comes walking out of the portal, and you see her for a couple of seconds, and then she disappeared. I walked past her, and I just waved at her. I said, hi. And I start walking toward the portal, and it dissolves as I get to it. And the ghost walked within 3 feet. The ghost walked within 3 feet of me, and I just looked and said, hi, and just walked past her. And it was the same lady that had pushed the weed out of the way that I'd gotten a few months earlier. And turned to find out that her daughter, firstborn daughter, that died at 11 months and 4 days old, is buried in that cemetery with only a few cousins and uncles still buried there. The cemetery, Bratcher's Grove, was about half the bodies were exhumed when the cemetery closed for burials. Mm-hmm. And they put out the notice, anybody there, you need to come get your relative. You know, like the city does, we're not paying for this, but you need to come get you because we're closing the cemetery. And about half the people did. The Patrick family, there was no descendants they could even find, to say nothing of living in the area. And the Humphreys are also, one moved to Florida, one moved to California. They were interested in coming in there to dig up their long lost aunt. So the daughter is still buried there to this day. So what the mother was doing, although she's buried about 3-4 miles in Orland Park Cemetery, with her husband, he's in the center of the plot. His first wife is buried on one side of him, and she's got, I think, 3 kids buried beside her. On the other side of it is his second wife, and 2 or 3 kids of hers are buried beside her. He was having an affair with wife number 2 almost the entire marriage of wife number 1. Now tell me that creates a real peaceful thing in the afterlife.
Right? Well, it's funny because all of basically the cemeteries where my parents are buried and my grandparents, so on and so forth, are considered historical. Like, you're no longer allowed to bury anyone there. There's no plots left, and people go and tend to it, but it's historical. You can no longer be buried there. Luckily, we were able to put my Uncle Bill's ashes there, and he's got a little stone from when he was in the military, so on and so forth. But yeah, where my mom's buried, we've had some crazy experiences up there, and you generally get lost getting there. Nobody believes me when I take them there because I've learned the secret. 420 is actually in the number. It's 4520, but 420 is in the number, and that's the route you take. Even though it seems like it's taking you somewhere else, it'll take you in the middle of nowhere to this cemetery. But the last experience I had was epic, and I'll tell you about it later because we do have to go to our second musical break. On this break, we have Fluid with I Love It. We got Griff with Best Life, Chico, Lasts Forever, and Griff again with Zoo. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
left hand. I'm ballin', making buckets back to back like I was Stephen. Better yet, I'm Phil Jackson, so don't treat me like the next man. And I'm kind of a real big deal, so don't be out here second guessing. Anyway, I make my pay and live this California lifestyle. Sunshine, loud packs, and chicks that love to get wild. That's how we do it every day. Slipping, sliding through the traffic on a mission for the day. Clearing marks about my way. Really got no time for y'all today. And all the craziness y'all talk, but never get your story straight. See me out here living great. I don't give a about all that hate. And when it comes to kicking game, I give you all that you can take. Trying to do it big, got no complaints. Every morning eating steak. And say I'm wrong for showing out, but I'ma do it anyway. Sussing thing ain't nothing, bitch, cause I can do it any day. And it don't matter where I go, I always represent the yay. I'm so in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Boppers used to hate me, now they tell me I'm they tight now. Swagger through the roof, got everybody on my height now. So in love with this lifestyle. And I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. See me, I'm out here getting it and loving how I live. Best believe if I do something, I'm a stupid, do it big. And this hustling is my gig, so don't you ask me what I stand for. Stacking while I'm macking, trying to earn myself a couple Lambos. Yeah, you know them toys for them big boys. Emperor of sorts and all you other players decoys. Meaning you're not the real deal. Keep an appetite for dollars that I never miss a meal. All you suckers need to chill. I'm just trying to stack a meal and pull the baddest bras around and love shorty sex appeal. Little bit of Netflix, then we chill. Lose them clothes, keep on them heels. Working like a 9 to 5 and go right back to chasing skrill. I bring that real, never that phony. BS, y'all be stressing, put it down just like an OG. Perform these cookies, take flight. Some of y'all just out here acting, I'm a boss in real life. I'm so in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Boppers used to hate me, now they tell me I'm they tight now. Swagger through the roof, got everybody on my height now. So in love with this lifestyle. And I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Keep it more 100 than a C note. Hall of Fame spitting, representing with these pimp quotes. Don't try to front, you know this shit's dope. Question is, will I ever fail? My answer is no. I make this hustling look amazing. Put it down doper than a blunt of purple hazing. Spicy on the mic, I bring the fire like a Cajun. Scoville's making haters sweat when I be blazing. Leaning to the side, haters everywhere. Yeah, I hear them talking, but they simply wasting air. Can't understand the reason that they stay in my affairs. But I'm major with my movements, getting money everywhere. I'm so in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Boppers used to hate me, now they tell me I'm they tight now. Swagger through the roof, got everybody on my height now. So in love with this lifestyle. And I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. So in love with this lifestyle. And I love it, and I love it. So in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now.
I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. Do you and live your best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. Where you from? Who you with? Are you unplugged? Are you equipped? I do my thing, stay legit. In this world, no one's innocent. VIP, get bottles. One snap of my fingertips. See these haters like blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, talking gibberish. I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. Do you and live your best Rolling and rolling and rolling SUV. Rolling and rolling and rolling with my homies. Rolling and rolling and rolling SUV. Rolling and rolling and rolling with my homies. I'm going to live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm going to live my best life. Do you live your best life? Do you live your best life? Do you live your best life? I'm going to live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm going to live my best life. Do you live your best life? Do you live your best life? Do you live your best life? I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. I'm gonna live my best life. Don't care if my head ain't right. Do you and live your best life. Don't care if my head ain't right.
You right where you wanna be. Right with me.
want. If that's what you really want, you can be anything you want. All I want to do right now is leave it soon. All I wanna do. All I want to do right now is leave it soon. For good, I'm wasting time. Not trying to lose my mind. Know that I am wasting time. Not trying to lose my mind. If you want, get left behind. In this rat race, go back to my place where I know it's safe. And lock myself in my room. Won't watch the news, cause it is so confused. What can I do if I lose you? All I want to do right now is leave it soon. All I wanna do. All I want to do right now is leave it soon. Okay. She was a loompa, now her body super duper. Getting a lot of attention she was never used to. Hitting me up like I was Uber. Got a few miles, so I guess she's a cougar. Real winner, never seen her with a loser. Gorilla talk, ooga booga booga. Scuba, tuba, diver, I'm a rider. Getting cider, sweet like cider. Fighter, rider, neither wants to get it going. Know it, hold it, fold it, blow it. Wait, I'm joking. Cages broken from these beasts from down east on the streets. It's a zoo. All I want to do right now is leave it soon. All I wanna do. All I want to do right now is leave it soon for good.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. We're doing
I actually met him and talked with him for a while.
Best George Takei impressions. Okay, oh my. Well, I had heard a little bit about him. He was actually in one of those internment camps for a while when the Japanese, after, was it? Oh my. But he was in those for a little bit. That was pretty harsh. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
You know he was held. Right. You know he was held here in Arkansas, right?
No.
Yes.
Wow.
There was a prison camp. And let's face it, it's what it is. It's called an internment camp, whatever, daycare, whatever you want to call it in World War II. It was a prison camp. And him and his family were held just outside McGee, Arkansas.
Wow.
Just down the road, 15, 18 miles from here. And they've got a museum, and you can go out there and see, the area where this was held. And George Takei actually did you got the speakers there for a tour. He actually did the voiceover for that.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of funny that I actually got to meet, back in the late 80s, I got to actually talk with him for a while at a sci-fi con.
That's so cool.
and
He
ended
always
up
seemed
there in
pretty
Arkansas
cool and
just
laid
a few
back.
miles where he was held in a Japanese internment camp. Yeah, he's an all right guy. But let's get back to the paranormal. What do we want to talk about now?
Well, we were talking on break. You said you had pulled up to the Civil War place where there used to be, or there was a cabin, and you had some experiences with
Yes,
some
it was.
ghost children.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. It wasn't exactly a cabin. It was not one of the big, huge mansions like you see down in Louisiana. Something in between the two. This was a good-sized house, 2-story house, and it's where the people live. And they call it Mark's Mills, and that's their family name. It's not Mark, like Mark McGregor or
Marks.
Mark whoever. Their last name is Marks, Marks. Yes, and this was their property, and they had a rather large plantation there, and they're still the richest, most powerful family in the area even today. But anyway, they had this nice house, and they did have a mill with it, of course, ground grain and whatever, just down the road from their house. And there was a running battle. They sent some people. Down in Canton, Arkansas, there was that's where the capital, the Confederate capital of Arkansas, had moved to, which is toward the very, very southern part to the west of El Dorado, which is some bit west, because I live in Star City, which is kind of toward 25 miles north of Monticello, which is kind of in the southeast corner. We're talking about over closer to the southwest corner, definitely to the west of central Arkansas, in just above Louisiana. But anyway, they sent some Union soldiers down to try to capture the Confederate capital, because Little Rock was the Union capital of Arkansas. So they were all housed up in a former government building there in Little Rock, where they were all camped out. The area is still now the MacArthur Military Museum there, which is also very haunted. That's another long story. Anyway, they sent them down from there, and they just had a running battle up to and around the Confederate capital of Arkansas. And they had a supply train coming through Marks Mills. This is about 40, maybe 50 miles west of here, more in the center of the state. And they, of course, you were in the military, so I'll have to explain this to everybody else listening that was not. It's always been through history that if you get a caravan or in this case, a supply train, a train being wagons. Now, we're not talking about a train. When you're talking about a supply train, you can be in from cars to trucks to, in this case, horse-drawn wagons. And still call it a supply train. Single file, because the roads were narrow, and that's basically all you had room to do was, that somebody else coming the other way, they had to pull over and wait for you to get by. And the best way to stop a supply train like that is to stop the first wagon in this case. And the way you stop the wagon is you shoot the drivers.
What?
And maybe shoot the drivers on the head wagon, and maybe shoot a horse so the horses can't run off. The wagon, therefore, blocking the road. Then, at the same time, shoot the drivers and maybe a horse off the end wagon. And then the supply train can't go forward. It can't go backward. They are at your mercy. And unless you're in the mood for giving mercy, they are in trouble. And the Confederates just started shooting all the drivers, and they ended up capturing the entire supply train in this instance. The reason I mentioned the house that was there and talked about a couple of kids that were standing there, the Marks family was home. They were looking out about to see this long, several miles long supply train drive by, right by their house. And the lead wagon had stopped for a second in front of their house. So here's these two girls, one of them 12 years old, and the other one 6 or 7. And they're looking out the window. And all of a sudden, the Confederates attacked and killed the drivers of the wagon right in front of the kids. And that's how the battle started. They killed the last drivers, and then they started shooting everybody in there. They tried to the Unions tried to mount a counterattack. A lot of them surrendering, a bunch of them got killed. And the Marks family home got turned into a hospital for both sides. They got doctors in there, and there were surgeries done in the house. People died in the house. And for several weeks after that, you had people staying there trying to recover from their wounds. So all their nice area, there's a place there was Smart Courtyard where the well is still for the house. And you actually go out there and sit by the well. And this is where a lot of Confederate and Union soldiers were left to recover from their wounds well after the battle. Across the road is 4 or 5 Confederates buried there, and within sight is where a Union officer fell. And up around the corner, in front of the old mill site, there's also other several marked graves, and there's many not marked graves there where people were killed in just their grave was dug and the body put in it just to keep from smelling up the air. And they said there was just bodies all over the place. And blood was all over the ground, and they just dug a hole, rolled body in there, and covered it up with no marker. Some of them got marked, some of them haven't. The 4 Confederate markers there are unknown, because they did not know their names. But of course, they had Confederate uniforms on, so they buried them together. And the reason we brought this up is because this is one time Gail was with me while we were driving around on a mini vacation this past summer with COVID and all. The vehicle we were in, 4-wheel drive Jeep. Fortunately, we did not drive our sporty Magnum down there. It would have been digging holes in the road with a splitter. But we were in a 4-wheel drive Jeep. Where I parked the Jeep to get out and investigate the homestead, I parked the Jeep exactly where the lead wagon was. She was sitting geographically in the same place where the wagon drivers were sitting when they got shot. And I told her this, and she was thoroughly creeped out, as most people would be.
So did she have an experience while she was sitting there?
Which is 100 yards down the road. This is a family cemetery, because again, this is a plantation. She was not comfortable. It was definitely creepy to her, and she wanted to leave. But I went down there. I moved the car down to the about 100 yards down the road to the Marks Cemetery, and I opened up Echo Fox here in the cemetery, and I've been told that a kid had gone down there and wanted to ask his parents who all those people were walking through the cemetery. And they said there's no people in the cemetery. And of course, a child being usually more open-minded than adults was seeing ghosts walking through there. So I left Gail in the car and outside the cemetery gates, and I went in there, and I wasn't alone in that cemetery, even in the daytime. So I could see where the kid may have seen somebody walking around, and the rest of his family was kind of creeped out at what the kid was saying, because the echo box was yakety yak 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 yak, people talking the whole time I was in there. And it wasn't me. I just said, if anybody here wants to talk, I'm willing to listen. And I'd read some of the graves. I'd say, okay, this person, he traveled a lot. This man lived a life. This person died young. Was that all the comments I made? I'm not trying to antagonize anybody. Again, I don't do that. And there was all several voices just trying to go over one another, yakking on my echo box. And earlier, I had been to a guy's private place to see if I could get anything at his house, and the echo box was completely silent because there was nothing there. We heard one voice from a distance said a couple of words and faded away. At the cemetery, it sounded like I was on a party line, and 4 or 5 or 6 different households, and everybody was talking on the phone at once. That's what it sounded like. You couldn't hardly tell what was going on. It reminded me a lot of when you've had this experience before with Bill Hauser, when you're trying to contact one spirit, and all of a sudden you get 6, 7, or 8 spirits talking at once. This is what I was experiencing in this cemetery. I have got to go down there again. I want to go down maybe in the spring after all the growth died down, because there's a trail you can walk. During the summer, I was advised by the same guy, by the way, whose house I was investigated, not to walk the trail because it's got poison ivy, poison oak, and copperheads in the trail.
Jeez,
and for those of you who don't know what a copperhead is, it's a smaller but very poisonous snake. They have short fangs, but if you get in their range or step on them, they'll pop you in the ankle unless you're wearing some thick leggings or something, or extremely high boots. They can't bite through a tennis shoe or something, but they'll come up, pop you in the ankle, and they will make you very sick. You will be hospitalized overnight. And if you're walking a trail by yourself, and somebody's, okay, he's been down there an hour, I better go after him, finally come after you and then help you to a car, and you're still 30 miles from the nearest hospital, you're not going to die, but you may wish you would.
Yeah.
From a copperhead bite. It would make you very sick. It's going to be a rough ride to the hospital with you hanging your head out the car window while somebody's driving, and you're puking and whatever. It would just make you sick as a dog. Of course, a rattlesnake in that kind of situation, it gets in your bloodstream, it could very easily kill you. Some people have survived a rattlesnake bite with no attention. But copperhead is easy to survive. It's just it's not a road you want to go down. So I did not want to go down there in the middle of summer and risk walking down that trail. You didn't say nothing of the poison ivy and poison oak. So I want to go down there maybe March and walk down the trail. Trail starts at the mill or ends at the mill, whichever way you want to look at it, and the other end is at the cemetery, in the back of the cemetery. So you either start at the cemetery or end the cemetery. It's up to you whichever end you want to start at. But you're walking through the woods where you're walking in the middle of what was a battlefield. And you can walk all this, that's fine. They don't seem to care. They got some security cameras, so you can't go in there and tear up stuff. I'm assuming there's somebody kind of watching once in a while. But I'd love to go in there and talk to Mark's family and get 2 or 3 people to go with me and investigate all night. And the cemetery, the old plantation house area, which is marked, and you kind of got the outline of the house and the trees, and the old well, which was their right outside the door in their kind of sitting area outside. And just to realize the suffering that went on there for a couple of months after this battle. Because you had people in surgery that died in the house. You had many others that suffered for weeks from their wounds in and around that house. So if you're a little bit of a feeler, you can feel the heaviness of the area. And I had the wife sitting there right outside the house where the guy got shot, and it was not a comfortable situation at all. I still hear about it once in a while. Every time I go with you, you put me in some situation like that.
Sorry, baby.
And she still laughs about the ghost that was in the room. You can imagine what your husband would do if you were off investigating other parts of a hotel, and all of a sudden he discovers that he's got a ghost in the room talking to him. You can imagine what he would say.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's
so
amazing.
I still hear from Gail sometimes about that.
As far as Civil War and such, and all the places that it affected, like I had no idea that Arkansas had its own little branch during the Civil War. They didn't wear the gray or the blue. They wore like a khaki color or squash colored uniform is what they called it, with gold embellishments like for the generals or whatnot. And we had actually gone to a place where there were battles, and we picked on so many different spirits. First of all, I think was a general, and then one was a soldier, and we also saw Mary and got her on a FLIR camera flick, but that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, one color they wore because they ran out of gray dye. Now, the first Manassas battle, you had because when you went to West Point, your West Point uniforms still are, in fact, if you look at the West Point people from now, wear gray. And then you're given the blue. A lot of soldiers that were active at Red West Point, but their state withdrew from the Union before the Civil War, just wore their old uniforms from West Point, which meant that you had a lot of Confederates in blue and a lot of Union people wearing gray. So obviously this is a lot of confusion. Some of them were near civilian clothes, all kinds of colors, and they said both sides said, okay, we got to figure this out. So it got pretty standard for the Confederates to be in gray, and then they started running out of gray dye. So they started wearing butterscotch. And that's where people get really confused. It's because the Unions are pretty much in the war wearing blue after the first battle too. But then the Confederates started having to wear butterscotch, and they said, okay, what in the world color is that? And what army are they in? Just simply because they ran out of gray dye.
Yeah, automatically,
and
like when we had that spirit pop up. Yeah, that's what I thought it was khaki, and I was like, well, maybe it was like, a park ranger or whatnot that used to work here, really loved it, so he's still here. And then the cops chased us out that night. The next night we had to go back and, fill out paperwork and give our credentials, so on and so forth, like our business card and such. And that's when we're walking around waiting for them to finish this paperwork, and we see this uniform that you said, like, I heard buttersquash, but butterscotch is what the term you used, and I automatically thought it was a park ranger until I saw that uniform. I'm like, oh my god, now it all makes sense.
Yeah, and it was all because the Confederacy started running out of gray dye for their uniforms. And the most common color they had anywhere near gray was butterscotch. So that's part of knowing. That's something I would advise anybody to do, is if you want to go into paranormal, that's fine. But go into it for the right reasons. If you're going into it for a TV show, the chances are about 98.99% you're going to fail that mission because there's very few TV shows. And I've known some people that have been in a group, they go on 2 investigations, they say, okay, where's my TV show? I'm being serious. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. If you're in it for a scare factor and don't want to do the research, or if you don't want to do the evidence gathering, then you're in it for the wrong reason. And if you're in it to make money, the only way you're going to make money out of the paranormal is either sell paranormal equipment, and there's so many people doing that, or get you a TV show. That's it. So there's just not many ways, and not very many people make money in the paranormal. This is a hobby. It's research. You can say scientific, but it's not like scientists. And my wife can tell you she was in medical research. I may not have ever told you that what she used to do at Northwestern University in Chicago was medical research. She used to help train surgeons for transplant surgery. She worked for one of the leading kidney transplant surgeons in Chicago. So she knows what I'm talking about here. A scientific thing is when you do something and you find whatever. You either prove or disprove, you find something or whatever, that you can do the same thing again a couple of days later, a week later, and get the same results. So they'll say, okay, this is how it works. You know, if you do this, you kill your frogs. That's basic biology, high school biology. We can go in there and remove this organ. If you don't put it back and put it in there just right, the frog's going to die. Or if you're operating on the dead frog, pull this out or you cut this, or if this was a living frog, you'd be dead now. But you've got to be able to repeat it to be scientific. And in the paranormal, you cannot guarantee the same results. Like, if that elevator still existed in New Orleans, the next night, I might could have walked into the elevator and got absolutely nothing. That's not scientific investigating there, because you're dealing with souls, which means you're dealing with people, and you just don't know what's going to happen from one time to the other, 1 minute to the other, 1 hour to the other, to say nothing of a night or two later, or a week later, or a month later. It may be totally different. Because it just doesn't work that way. To where you can walk into a room and speak to the same spirit you spoke to the night before. It doesn't work that way. So the scientific method is kind of out.
Yeah, it's hard to get the repeated result in a sterile environment, so on and so forth. But have you guys ever gone investigation during the daytime? Because like we were talking about before, like spirits are people too. And so they're not just there during the nighttime. It's easier because things are quieter. But at the same time, like my most active one was early in the morning. What is your experience with that? Different times of day?
It depends on the location. And now the one that I'm going to be talking about Wednesday, you get a lot of results just before sunrise. Now in Bachelor's Grove, you got most of your results right before sunset, but again during the day. Bachelor's Grove is a unique place. It's had some kind of tragic Indian thing. We assume that there was a battle there, that a tribe was nearly wiped out by another Indian tribe there. You had a village that tried to start up there, and the village ended up failing. They had issues the whole time. Of course, they were on, and not only an Indian burial ground, they were on where a massacre had taken place. So it's all kinds of double whammies there. The woods itself are haunted. around the cemetery, and then the desecration where all the graves are being marked by gangs. The local people would go in there, get drunk, kick over the headstones. You still can't keep the headstone upright in there, even though a lot of the painting and desecration has gone away. But you still can't keep a headstone upright in the place. The locals just go in there. That thing weighs between 200 and 400 pounds, and you get a few big friends in there, and you sit this headstone upright. It stays upright maybe a week or two, and the next thing you know, it's kicked over. And you're wondering, who in the hell kicks over a 400-pound headstone? But so it's just insane what goes on there. And you have friendlier spirits during the day. But then at dusk, those spirits are gone. The reason I saw the lady come in there, that's why she was there. The most famous ghost picture in history with the lady on the stone was taken during the day. And it was this lady, Amelia Patrick Humphrey, walking out of the portal, and because her daughter's there. The daughter, being a child, could not move around past her grave, since she was kind of stuck there because she did, 11 months and 4 days. She didn't know that she could actually move around a little bit. So the mother would come in there practically every evening, pick her child up, and disappear with her, go other places. Now, sometimes some of her other siblings that died young would come there and be playing with her. But the mother would always come by and get them, so they did not have to spend the night in the place, because at the time the spirits will affect you, and they will turn what you came there to see. They will show you. Some people have gone down there looking for a hanging that's hanging from a tree. If you go down there looking for that, you will see it. Some people go down there looking for a werewolf dog. It's just a shadow dog that looks like, if you saw American Werewolf in London, it looks like one of those werewolves standing there, but it's just a shadow.
Jackal.
You will see that. You will hear that move. You will hear it rustling around. You will hear it growl. You will see menacing shadow figures. At nighttime, it's just totally different. And what she was doing, she was coming there every evening to pick her child up so her child wouldn't have to live through that every night, saving her the stress of being around all this badness. They will also make you sick. That's a way of defending themselves. They if you're in there at night, they will make you throw up, feel ill. When I spent the night there, I had, not to be too descriptive to your listeners, but I was feeling fine, and then all of a sudden, my guts moved, and I ran out to a ditch and had very violent, very explosive diarrhea for about 30 seconds.
Oh no.
I emptied my entire gut out, and it shot about 4 feet out of my butthole across the ditch.
Damn.
And then my stomach was fine the rest of the night. Normally if you're sick and you start to have diarrhea, you cramp for a little bit, then you have your diarrhea, then you cramp again, then you have it again, and repeats like that. This was just one time. No cramps, barely any warning. I barely had enough time to get my pants down. That's how quick it come. And as soon as it was out, I was fine for the rest of the night. And this is one of the most haunted cemeteries in America. And the wife dropped me off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I stayed there by myself till 8 o'clock the next morning.
Damn, Lan.
In the dark, no lights. I was there alone in the dark, in a place where park rangers will say, we picked up people with guns, machetes, knives, gangs going down there. So they said, don't ever go in here by yourself in this area. And I was by myself all that time. One guy, the guy with the dog, he came down there and stayed with me about 30, 40 minutes, but he had to go to work. He was working third shift. And about 1 o'clock, 1:30, somewhere along in there, a paranormal group of about 5 people came in. And I gave them a tour of the place after scaring the hell out of them because I knew what I was doing and taped walkie-talkies on different channels, 3 walkie-talkies to trees in various areas, and put string and rope across all the back trails coming into the area. So when somebody's coming up a back trail, they'd run into my little trap, and I would hear them. These guys came down the mail trail, which I could hear them coming the time they entered the trail a quarter of a mile away. And saw them coming down the trail with a flag, and I immediately hid most of my equipment. And they said, okay, somebody's in here. And I keyed up. I had all 3 walkie-talkies set on different channels. I keyed the nearest one up, and I said, run, it's the cops. Run. And they took off running, changed the channel on the walkie-talkie I had to the next one. And I said, run, oh my God, it's the cops. Run. And they were running down, and they stopped waiting. They said, wait a minute, that's a walkie-talkie for us. Right. There's somebody down there. So they came back, and I had face paint, my hands were painted, and got right in his. I had a bright flashlight in my hand, and turned it on white light. It was a white light and a green and red flashlight. Put it on white light, it shined right in their eyes because I could see them. They could not see me. Blinded them, picked out the leader, and just jumped up in his face with 2 jumps. Got nose to nose with him and said, who the hell are you? What the hell do you want? And he never saw me land in front of him because I was completely silent. And it just flabbergasted him because he said, I'm an active duty Marine. How the hell did you do that? Because I approached him so quickly. Because I moved forward about 12, 14 feet in 2 bounds, completely silently. He didn't hear a footstep. He didn't hear a breath. He didn't hear a leaf rattle. He heard nothing. I went from behind a tree well away from him to in his face. It shocked him. And when I said, what do you want? I said, we've never been here before, so we wanted to come here and look around. I said, okay, I'll give you a tour. So I gave him the tour, told him about some of the stuff, what happened at this grave, and who this was buried here. The standard thing I've done to 100 people down there, a couple 100 people there during the daytime. And they left about an hour later, and I spent the rest of the night there by myself. And first thing in the morning at daybreak, 2 coyotes were trying to enter the cemetery, which concerned me a little bit because there I was totally unarmed.
Yeah, that's scary.
Coyotes
are freaky. Coyote. I've gone on walks to cool off at times, and I was in Mancos, Colorado, and I was living in a matchstick house, which was actually 3 cabins from Mesa Verde put together on this property. But I go down the alley, I'm going for a walk to the end of the drive and coming back to the house, and all of a sudden I hear this pack of coyotes, and they're getting closer and closer and closer. I'm like, hell no, I'm going home. I'm not getting eaten. These guys are scary. Like, if it's just one, not too bad, but you got a couple or more, get the hell out of there.
That's what was freaking out this paranormal group. The other guys were not military, just the one. And there was coyotes howling all evening, and they tell us that those coyotes are getting closer and closer. I said, yeah, they are. I'm liable to see one time it gets daylight. And sure enough, 2 of them come walking in almost to the gate. But, of course, they got sharp noses, and I think they smelled where I'd gotten sick several hours before, as I described.
Ew.
And smelled that and said, okay, okay, that's human. Whoop, they were gone. So, maybe it was a good thing I was ill to my stomach for a while, because I definitely put human scent
Right.
near the path. Mark my territory, because this place is mine for the night. Because they got downwind, froze. We're looking at the spot, and all of a sudden they were just gone. It's like they vanished into the air. They just took off running. And then I put up my equipment and met the wife back at the parking lot. And people have said, I spent the night there. I said, okay, what time did you get there? I got there about 11, 12 o'clock at night. We stayed about 3. Dude, that's 4 hours. That's not all night.
Yeah, not very impressive.
I was by myself, except for the friend of mine that saw me there for 30 minutes, and the paranormal group that was there for about an hour. I was there alone from 5 in the afternoon till 8 o'clock in the morning. And the paranormal activity there is nothing in the morning. I was telling you about one other place that one of the most active parts is an hour or two before sunrise.
Mm-hmm. That's when it gets the
3 or 4
coldest,
o'clock
too.
in the morning, there's not a whole lot going on. But, yeah, when it gets the coldest. Of course, this place was inside, so, it wasn't that we were that cold. Bachelor's Grove, it's a lot of daytime. You get the more friendly spirits. Nighttime, you get the ones that are protected, because that's when the most damage to the place has occurred. This other place, just don't even try to. It's a hotel. Don't even try before midnight. There's just no need even trying. Just go back to your room, drink some Coke, get yourself going, get away, and come on back out at 12 and set your equipment up. And then prepare to stay up, past 7. Because that's when your most activity is going to be between 4 and 7 o'clock there. At Bachelor's Grove, it's just before sunset. So it just depends on the place, and that's the whole point I was making, to study the history of a place, to see when other people have had the experiences and what time of day each person had their experience. And then maybe all of a sudden you realize everybody that I talked to had experience, say, in this 4-hour time frame. Well, that's the 4-hour time frame you want to be there. You may be wasting your time 2 or 3 hours before, 2 or 3 hours after, whatever that time frame is. Because very few places can you stay 24 hours. You can't stay awake that long. So you got to know what time things happen. Now, there is one place I investigated where things happen 24/7, and the best place to investigate that would be to have your cameras with the biggest battery pack you can find on there, and the biggest car cram into it, running, and just let it run all day long. And maybe come in there and investigate it at night. But you can't go in that place in Cincinnati anymore. They put some priests and some other high-placing paranormal people in there and cleaned the place out, including the Catholic Church, and cleaned it out. And they don't allow paranormal investigations in there anymore. And I don't even want to go near the place, because since seemingly spirits follow me around sometimes, I don't want to bring anything back. Basically, I don't go to Cincinnati. And if I went to Cincinnati, I wouldn't go anywhere near this place, because I don't want to contaminate. It's clean, and I have no business there. But I investigated before it got cleaned out. And that place will mess with your mind. So when I was telling you about the other night, of course, your audience didn't hear it, that there was 2 bodies, a man and a young girl, who had died and got left on the porch, which is standard procedure. It was a Catholic Church rectory. But the unique thing about this rectory is where default priests were sent. Where the Catholic Church would, for child molestation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They just put all these priests together in one rectory. Excuse me. And they would spend the rest of and one of them was murdered there. And I spent the night in the bed. It's not the same bed he was murdered in, but a bed in that room. And there were shadow figures walking around me all the time I was in there by myself. They wanted to see if I was okay. And, there was a big discussion on the first floor, because I was on the second by myself. They wanted to see if I was okay and wanted to come down to the first floor, because they were going to have a little seance thing. They argued for several minutes about who was going to come upstairs and tell me this. Nobody wanted to come upstairs to where I was and tell me that I was needed downstairs. They finally hollered up. I heard them. Went outside the door. Are you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. I said, let me put my shoes on. And somebody finally had the guts to come upstairs. He said, you still put your shoes on? And they met me just as I was walking out the door of the bedroom. I said, yeah, let's go back down. But it took them that long to decide who was going to come upstairs and get me. Somebody that had the actual guts to do it. He did not come upstairs to get me. But yet I was upstairs by myself for about 45 minutes. Totally alone. Well, I wasn't alone, but there was no human people on that floor. And nobody would come up and even tell me this. They wouldn't come upstairs and get me. That was freaky when I found out about all this, that there had been quite an argument because nobody wanted to come up and get me.
They're like trying to draw straws or flip a coin or something. I don't want to go. You got to go. I ain't going to go. You got to go.
Yeah, and the person that finally got up there was very happy that I was ready to go. And they only spent about 30, 40 seconds on the second floor. And we were headed back down. So he was very glad when I walked out of the bedroom door. So that meant he was barely at the top of the stairs. And I said, okay, let's go. And we went back downstairs. That was a very happy guy right there. And nobody that I know of, people have gone down there, and I've investigated with them afterward, and they said that I don't even want to go back to that place. Because I wasn't alone. There was dog fighting held in the basement, and you could go down there and turn your ghost box on, and inside a building, in the middle of the night, you could hear dogs growling and barking.
Yeah, forget that.
And you couldn't. It's a brick building, old brick building. You could hear some rustling around with dogs. There was a spirit there that liked to have fun with you. If you went to the attic, which was third floor, it was a school for a while, and it was completely done up like a room, large room. If you go up to the attic, if he was there, he was zipped down to the basement. If you went to the basement, he was there. He zipped up to the attic. What you had to do was have people in the attic and have somebody also down in the basement, and that way you could get a couple of words out of him, because he liked to play games like that. But if you said one or two people in the basement, one or two people in the attic, you could catch him, and at least he'd sometimes a swear word, because there was somebody there, and he would zip down to the old, there was people there too. He kind of got frustrated because he couldn't hide from you. There was one guy out there that swore, but now he heard gunshots and went running outside, and there was no gunshots in the place.
Lynn, we are at the last 3 minutes of our show. Would you like to again tell our listeners where they can find you and find the YouTube channel you're on and how to contact you if they have any questions.
Well, the easiest way to find me, right now I have the old YouTube channel. I need to redo that. I've got some personal issues with that. Lost my password. Don't tell anybody. That's just between me and you. Nobody else will hear that, will it?
Okay, yeah, nobody else heard that.
It's a Chicago. Okay, it's Chicago Ghost Hunter 1. If you look up Lynn Dorman, you get my new account. There's not a whole lot posted on my new account yet, because it's very hard for me to load up videos with this slow internet. But the other account, the Chicago Ghost Hunter 1, I built that when I was in Chicago and had actual high-speed internet up there, and I could load a video in a few minutes. The other place is look up Lynn Dorman, L-E-N-D-O-R-M-A-N, not L-Y-N-N, that's a girl. I'm a guy, L-E-N, just one N. On Facebook, he goes right to my account, and I've got a couple of short videos and quite a few photos you can go through and see some of the places I've been to.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much again for being our guest tonight, Lynn, and for being our new Hump Day host. We got Lynn Dorman on Wednesdays, and again, that's at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to all of our friends on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. I had a wonderful time, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend when it's Surprise Saturday, because even I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday. And then we got Mr. Bill Hauser on Sunday with his Ghost Box Live. It's always amazing to tune into that, so make sure you do. I also want to take a little moment to have you guys come over. We got Sleepy Dave Davenport on Mondays with Coffee and a Chat with Sleepy Dave. We got Mr. Lynn Dorman on Wednesdays. And what is the name of your show again, Lynn?
Redneck Ghostin'.
Redneck Ghostin'. And then Fridays we have Mr. Doc Skinner with 1028 Live. But thank you also to our sponsors. We couldn't do it without you. We have Mr. Jim Morris, Mr. Kevin McDougall, Del Elson, Mia Savage, as well as our musical host, Roy Washington of Quest Nation. If you guys want to hang out a little longer, come on out to the after party, and you can look it up at tessa.n.thomas30 on Skype, or give us a call, 970-335-9596. Until next time, night-night, love and light. You guys take care.